as you go through your learning journey, you really want to seek out and make sure you're learning from people who have the experience, the people who have been there and done that. Welcome to Jenna Frog's Bookkeeping Lilypad, your cozy corner of the podcasting world, where numbers tell a story and bookkeeping blossoms into an adventure. My name is Rachel Barnett, and I'm glad you're here. This podcast is for bookkeepers who enjoy authentic, unfiltered, and always encouraging friend to talk shop with. We will be discussing what it's like to own and operate a small bookkeeping business. In this episode, I want to talk about the question, am I doing this right? I want to talk about a situation where I was questioning myself and asking if I was doing this right and how I think it can translate to owning and operating a bookkeeping business. In my case, I've started going to a new Pilates studio. I haven't gone to Pilates since before the pandemic. Wasn't good at it then, and I'm not good at it now. When you go to Pilates, you could find yourself in a room with a bunch of mats like yoga mats and you do some stuff on the floor, or you could end up in a class with machines. I loosely describe it as you're on a creeper. You basically have a little tiny bed that's about the size of half of your body. You'll often lay on your back and push yourself away using your legs. So I'm in this room and I'm laying on my back and I'm told to do a thing. In my peripheral vision, I can see people on both sides of me. Both of my neighbors are new to Pilates, and I know this. I know that we're kind of all in the same boat of feeling uncertain and wanting to do our best. There was an exercise where you're pushing away with your legs, and I'm thinking to myself, I think that my knees need to go out at a 45-degree angle for the thing that we're doing. Out of the side of my vision, I see both of my neighbors have their knees up and down, where the knees are kind of pointed to the ceiling. This is that moment where I think to myself, oh my God, am I doing this right? I've been going to the studio for about a month now. There are 2 instructors. It's often a very small class. The instructors can see exactly what everyone is doing. If there's ever a situation that the instructor sees us doing something that isn't right, they gently correct us and say, oh, you need to adjust in this particular way. I know that if I was doing it wrong, I've been doing it wrong multiple times over multiple different classes. I also know the instructors would have said something. There was a moment while I was laying there performing the exercise, feeling insecure and thinking both people on either side of me are doing it different than me, therefore I must be doing it wrong. That's not true though. The people on either side of me are new. They're doing the best they can. Just because they both happen to be doing it differently than me doesn't mean that I'm right and they're wrong. And it doesn't mean that they're right and I'm wrong. It made me think about Facebook forums. And I'm not picking on Facebook forums. I'm not picking on anyone in particular. I'm just thinking, how often do we see people ask a question? Someone else answers the question. We think to ourselves, oh, I've been doing it differently. Am I doing this thing wrong? I would say that I see this more often than most people. At the time of this recording, I coach for a bookkeeping crash course. One thing that I'll notice is that oftentimes people will answer a question with a big heart and big well-meaning thoughts, but it's going to be a person who doesn't really know as much as someone else. This isn't a poor reflection of the person answering. I'm so grateful for anybody who answers anything I've ever asked when I've gotten stuck. It's more meant to be a reminder. Just because someone's answered it doesn't mean that they know what they're doing. If I had asked either of my neighbors today what I should have done with my knees, should they be up to the sky or out to the sides, I could have gotten any confident answer. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the right answer. I will encourage you as you go through your learning journey, you really want to seek out and make sure you're learning from people who have the experience, the people who have been there and done that. Seth David, who I mention a lot on this podcast, has his own podcast. He's got recorded episodes, but it's currently dormant. Hopefully he releases soon. I encourage you to go and listen to it. It's called Nerd's Guide to the Galaxy podcast. And really what he says is, you never want my advice or opinions on anything, but if I've had the experience, you're welcome to it. I think that nicely sums up what I'm saying. I love it when people want to be helpful. I love being helpful. That's the whole reason I do this. I want to share my experience, and I want people to do the same with their own. When you're looking for someone to learn from, you're looking for someone who's had the experience with the thing that you need to learn. I want to give you a couple of examples of places to go to learn things. Now, of course, you can learn from me if I teach a thing that you need to learn. You can learn from Becky Frampton of Pachira Business Solutions if you're looking for someone who has the experience of guiding many bookkeepers through the process of owning and operating a business. I definitely have, but I always feel like you should have at least 2 places to look for stuff. I want to run through a couple of popular situations where you might be looking to learn something and you might be wondering, where can you go to learn the thing? If you're looking to learn how to own and operate a bookkeeping business, I'm happy to help. If for any reason I'm not the right fit, then I encourage you to take a look at Becky Frampton of Pachira Business Solutions. If you're looking to learn about e-commerce, Seth David and Veronica Wasak both do an amazing job of teaching people about e-commerce. I would recommend looking at anything that Ron Baker and Ed Kless have done together or separately. They have a podcast called The Soul of Enterprise. Another really good resource in the value pricing arena or education arena is a guy called Mark Wickersham. When I think back to my experience of trying to do the exercise in Pilates, and I think about, gosh, I want to help people with things. There are things that I love to teach, such as QuickBooks, and there are things I love to help with, such as business operations. I recognize that I am not the only resource. The best resource is going to be whatever resource is the one that makes sense to you. There are absolutely cases where I can teach someone a thing and we're both better for it. There are cases where I cannot teach someone something. For some reason, my silly examples and my words, they just don't click. I want to leave you with the parting thought that you shouldn't worry about comparing yourself, and you shouldn't worry about whether or not you're the best at a particular thing. But instead, you should always think, what am I doing? Where do I want to go? How can I get better? And is there somebody who's done the thing that I want to do that I can lean on and learn from? If you're ever uncertain if somebody is a good fit for you, try to look at their online reviews or talk to other people who have worked with that person. I had a bookkeeper reach out to me recently, and she said that she was looking at joining a program presented by somebody else. And the program is normally $10,000 or $12,000, and it's on sale. And the bookkeeper said, hey, I really want to join this thing. The sales pitch is so good. I think this is what I need. I took a look at the program, the website, the lack of online reviews, and I'm like, oh, this sounds terrible. Like, I don't care if you buy from me, but I would never let a friend buy this thing. I have no idea if she ended up buying the thing or not. What I did notice was on the website, the person presenting the coaching experience had some video testimonials and some written testimonials from various bookkeepers that I do know. I reached out to the bookkeepers that I know and I said, hey, there's basically no online presence for this person. They put together a half-baked web page. It's a little incomplete, not a whole lot going on. Would you recommend this experience to someone else? The answer was yes, which tells me that the question isn't how much did the person spend on the web page or how great was the copy editing or any of that stuff. The answer to the question is, can the thing that I'm considering buying or the person I'm considering learning from teach me the things that I need and want to know? Has this person gone through it and demonstrated that they know what they're doing and what they're talking about? Personally, I think there's nothing worse than somebody who learns a thing today and turns around and tries to teach it as a premium offer tomorrow. There's just too much that happens that you need experience to know and to be good and to be useful. You know this from your past jobs. If you've never had a job, you know this from learning stuff in school. Whatever it is that you learned at the beginning of a school year, you knew some things and you were solidly okay. But by the end of the school year, when you've had some real experience working on the things, we'll just take math, for example. When you're starting to learn algebra, at the beginning of the school year, you know some things. By the end of the school year, you really know some things. When you wonder if you're doing the thing right or not, try to look for someone who's had the experience who can tell you, yeah, you're doing the thing right, or no, you're not doing it. Here's some examples of things that I've gone through that are similar to what you're doing. Here's what I've tried, and here's what worked, and here's what didn't work. Here's some things to watch out for, some speed bumps and some traps to avoid. I really want to emphasize that I'm not saying that online groups are going to give you bad answers. I'm just going to emphasize that if you ever find yourself, like I found myself today, comparing myself against 2 other people, wondering, gosh, I must be doing it wrong because someone else is doing it differently. I should have taken a step back and said, no, the instructor is looping the room, and every 10 to 15 seconds, she's back in my machine. She can see what I'm doing and she'll tell me if I'm not doing it right. I need to not compare myself to other people, and I especially need to not compare myself to newbies. I hope this episode is helpful. I want to hear everything from you. I want to hear if you're also struggling with Pilates, because it's nice not to be alone. I want to hear if you have a resource that you really love. Have you taken a course that you love? Have you hired a coach that you love? Is there a podcast outside of this one that you absolutely love? It's okay if you don't love this one as much as you love others. At no point do I think I'm the only answer for people's things. I always want to hear from people. I've spent money on this thing, or I've spent time on this thing, and I'm so glad I did. If you have anything that you want to recommend or any experiences that you want to relay, I want to hear it. You're welcome to message me privately if you'd prefer, or if you feel comfortable, put it in Gentle Frog's Bookkeeping Lilypad community group on Facebook. My goal isn't just to entertain myself. My goal is to help people find things that they didn't know existed. Very quick side note, an example of finding things people didn't know existed. One of my girlfriends lives in a warm tropical place. She's going to go to a cold place before winter is up for vacation. Living in a tropical place, she doesn't have a lot of variety for winter clothes she can buy. So we're on Zoom and we're brainstorming ideas. And I said, you can get like a ski skirt. Basically, you can get the bottom half of a warm, puffy winter coat, and it's a skirt that you wear over your clothes. So when you're out and about, you basically have an extension to your jacket. But when you go inside a building and it's warm and you don't need it anymore, you can unzip it. You have your regular clothes. You put the skirt in your bag, your backpack, your whatever. This may prevent you from freezing your butt off in the winter, and also save you from buying an insanely expensive coat that you don't need when you live in a tropical place. So when I say I want to hear from people about things that are out there that maybe other people don't know exist, it's going to be stuff like this. Do you have a resource that's awesome and amazing and that you know about, but somebody else doesn't know about? Let's get it out there. Let's help each other. Let's lift each other up, and let's say, here's a podcast, here's a white paper, here's a blog article, whatever it is. I'd love to hear it. If you have ideas for things you want to hear on a future podcast, please don't hesitate to let me know. If you want to be a guest and talk about business stuff with me, please, by all means. If you want to hear about everyday bookkeepers, I have a second podcast, Gentle Frog's Bookkeeping Landing Pad. The landing pad, I definitely have had some guests, but not a whole lot. I encourage and welcome more. Right now, I'm releasing episodes of that one once a week, mostly so that I don't run out. If you're ever looking to learn things about QuickBooks, I have courses at gentlefrog.com. I also have a YouTube channel that you can find by going to YouTube and just searching for Gentle Frog. I really appreciate you listening. I appreciate any feedback you want to provide. I appreciate any reviews you want to give, anytime that you share this, and anytime you let me know that something was interesting, inspiring, made you laugh, or made you feel less alone. Thanks, and we'll chat soon.